How's it going, guys? It's Adam and Eric.
Hi.
Should I introduce you?
Hi,
Eric. Little update. Last month, in the middle of February, I went to Colorado and I saw an autoimmune specialist there. And I was passed on to her by some guy on Instagram. I unfortunately deleted my Instagram because I was sick of people copycatting me and complaining about it and stuff. So I don't even know who he is, which is unfortunate because I owe him a big debt of gratitude. So, I go in, I gave my story, everything that's happened so far, and they do a spinal tap and a bunch of blood draws. And then they also request genetic testing and a PET scan. In my spinal fluid, I had high protein, 94 nanograms per deciliter of protein in my spinal fluid, which can indicate inflammation. It can indicate other things. It's mostly just makes them suspicious of something's wrong.
Well, according to my doctor, it makes him suspicious of inflammation.
Well, it should.
Yeah.
Because it either means antibody,
albumin,
proteins from nerve cells being destroyed,
right,
or your compromised blood-brain barrier with protein leaking the spinal fluid, which can be caused by inflammation, which we found. So also my spinal fluid was high albumin, and I had a high...
Sorry, I've been saying albumin in the background.
I know, but I have to explain it step by step.
Right.
I had a high albumin and high albumin index, which is, I forget how that's calculated, in my spinal fluid, which means that my blood-brain barrier is moderately compromised, which means that there are big chunky protein cells, or not cells, but molecules, leaking out of my blood vessels in my brain into my spinal fluid, which is not supposed to happen. Your blood-brain barrier is very like this network of meshy cells that keeps things from leaking out into your nervous tissue and also into your cerebral spinal fluid. Isn't
it literally just the density of the walls of your capillaries?
I don't know.
And things like that?
I haven't honestly looked too far into it.
Because I'm pretty sure, and I'm just going to spitball here, but I'm pretty sure disruptive blood-brain barriers where particles that are normally too large to pass through the
well, that's the result of
the vasculature
of a disrupted
blood barrier. That's what I'm explaining. So the particles that are usually too big to pass through vasculature into the cerebral spinal fluid and the brain itself are now able to pass through it because it's been disrupted somehow. And my doctor said that was indicative of inflammation.
Did he say it?
He did. He said inflammation. I can't even count. He probably said inflammation like, I don't know, 12, 15 times. Not that many. But 8 times the last appointment.
So the big red flags are...
Which means encephalitis, by the way, just for the record.
The big red flags are high intracranial pressure, high protein in the spinal fluid, high albumin, a high albumin index, and then response to immunotherapy, which you've had.
Right.
And so there's a big lean towards inflammation, but she wants to cover all the bases, and so she's doing genetic testing as well. I've had a cheek swab kit sent off. They're testing for all sorts of neurodegenerative diseases, as well as, I think, the propensity for some psychiatric diseases. And they only did mine because we're identical twins. We don't need to pay for 2.
Doctors have told me many times now on this journey that, it's unlikely that family members would get the same autoimmune disease. And I'm like, well, we're not just family members, we're twins. And how many case studies do you actually have of encephalitic patients who are twins? It's like you don't really have a lot to go off of as far as actual research on that subject goes. So you can't make a broad, sweeping statement that, family members don't have the same autoimmune conditions, and we're just going to apply that to twins as well, even though we have identical DNA. So I never understood that point. So like in reverse, like they only do genetic testing on him because we have the same DNA. It's like, well, we have the same problem because we have the same DNA. It's his genetic predisposition to an illness, presumed autoimmune encephalitis. I've heard inflammation so many times now that, and I have it on my chart, diagnosis, autoimmune encephalitis, that I feel comfortable saying that I've been diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis because I will never have a specific marker like an MRI that's indicative of encephalitis, or a PET scan, or even better than all that, the holy grail of encephalitis, an autoantibody. I won't have any of those. So I'm just going by what my doctor tells me, and he says it's all indicative of inflammation. So I've heard that enough times to comfortably say that I've been diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis, notwithstanding my response to steroids that I've had again, because we've just recently had steroids again, and which is immunotherapy. And their plan to continue to titrate up that immunotherapy to stronger medications.
So, to tag on that, so we're waiting for the genetic test to come back. The PET scan they already have, their nuclear radiologist is reading. I don't expect anything to come back from that. But once everything's back, they kind of have to make a decision on what to do. I've already had steroids and IVIG, and I've had a positive response to both. And
we both had steroids again recently.
Yeah.
Was it our third or fourth time? Steroids. I'm so fucking sick of steroids. They helped decrease my symptoms by like 20%.
Just let me finish my story, and then you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Just say, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say we're approaching a head where it's likely that she'll prescribe heavier immunomodulatory.
It's like listening to a 5-year-old.
Immunotherapies, like rituximab. Or cyclophosphamide. I don't know which one I think she's thinking rituximab.
Well, usually it's rituximab first.
Oh, really? Does it go up a chain like that?
Yeah.
I guess cyclophosphamide has a larger side effect profile, but rituximab is it latches onto your B cells as a type of protein. It's called a biologic because it's like a living thing, basically. It goes in and binds to your B cells and destroys them, and your B cells are part of your immune system, so it's trying to reset your immune system, and it's particularly effective if there is an antibody. We haven't found one, but that doesn't mean there isn't one.
Because there's new antibodies discovered, autoantibodies, which means antibodies that attack your nervous tissue or other parts of your body, but in our case, nervous tissue. There's new ones being discovered every year. So just because you're what's called seronegative, which means you don't have an autoantibody, doesn't exclude you from an encephalitis diagnosis. Fuck.
So, I don't know where we left off, but Eric's doc and my doc know each other. Eric's doc was a fellow underneath my doctor, so they're in communication with one another. And Eric's getting a PET scan, and then they're going to try it for IVIG through insurance for Eric because he hasn't had it yet.
They're going to bomb on both. They're not going to get it.
It's unlikely they'll get it through insurance.
Excuse me.
Well, you're having
it's unlikely they're going to get it through insurance. They're going to bomb on both. They're not. Number one, the PET scan. I've already had one. It's not going to show anything. And then number two, they're not going to get IVIG through insurance because, well, there's no PET scan to show.
It's just not quite enough evidence.
Not quite enough objective evidence for $60,000 worth of medication. So I'm going to be waiting a month or something for that to all come back negative, and for my doctor
to speak up.
My doctor to make a decision on what he's going to do next. Rituximab, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. There's still a lot of I don't knows. They're all like our doctors. Both of our doctors are very like, this is a problem. This is possibly encephalitis. It's hard to pinpoint. It'd be nice to have an objective measure before we start therapies, but they kind of plan on starting therapy, but they don't know. They haven't said we're gonna do rituximab or we're gonna do this medication. So it's like we're still in the dark about that, which isn't always the best feeling.
Yeah, but hopefully not much longer.
But from a liability standpoint, they're trying to cover every base possible. So.
Assuming genetic testing comes back completely negative, I'm pretty sure she's going to be going for rituximab. Because what else? There's no other ammo.
She'll go for rituximab. Like my doctor said, he said rituximab is not off the table. And I should have pushed him a little harder because I know I would be shocked if I get a PET scan that shows something, or if they get IVIG through insurance. I'd be absolutely blown away.
Yeah, that's where I stand anyway. So there's a lot of things pending. Eric's PET scan, Eric's prior auth through IVIG, all that, and that takes a lot of time. And then genetic testing is still pending, which could come back within a day or a couple weeks. And then after that, I have an appointment in May, so I don't know if I'll be seen in May or if I'll be seen sooner once we get all the testing back. And then she'll be like, okay, we'll sit down.
That was kind of an annoying bit, was that you're supposed to be scheduled out a month, but whatever.
Well, a month wouldn't have worked, but now at least they scheduled me out like way too far, 3 months. And so when I see her next, she'll probably do rituximab.
Yeah. And hopefully that does something, because it fucking sucks being alive.
Yep. Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
To be honest, no, not really.
Okay. Catch you later then.
Peace.